After Edmund left for work, I stayed in bed and couldn't stop thinking about what my marriage had degenerated to in so short a time. This wasn't the Edmund that practically ate me up during our honeymoon. The one that seemed so kind and gentle and attentive. Certainly not the one I met in the US at a friend's party and agreed to date before the evening ran out. Or the one I dated for 5 months before agreeing to marry him. I wondered if he had fallen out of love with me so soon, keeping malice with me endlessly and withholding sex from me as a punishment didn't make any sense. I got out of bed and stood in front of the mirror, stark naked, and took a long, hard look at myself. I was still me, still beautiful by every standard. Maybe he was seeing someone prettier. He must be doing it with her, I reasoned. Because if he wasn't doing it with me, he must be doing it with someone else. Yes, we had a no-sex courtship, and he had just broken up with his girlfriend right before we met. And he claimed he hadn't dated anyone else when he went back to Nigeria. Nothing stopped us now from enjoying each other's body. Well, nothing but his unreasonable attitude. I was tempted to help myself and tried to force my mind away from that route. I didn't like the way it made me feel dirty each time I did it. And every time I did, I made sure I went for confession. I wonder what Father Leola thought of this masturbating wife who comes for confession every other day. To confess the very same sin she confessed just a couple of days before. I tried as hard as I could, but my body wasn't strong enough to resist the temptation. And my mind wouldn't let go of the thought. I ransacked my dressing table in search of what I could use as a tool. I grabbed a roll-on and went back to bed. It felt good, but lacked that feeling that came with being with Edmund. This wouldn't do. I set my imagination to work and thought of Edmund as I helped myself. The satisfaction I felt at the end of it was nothing compared to what felt in Edmund's hands. You have to do for now, I said to the roll-on and got out of bed. Still longing for the real thing, I bathed and decided to go see a movie, window shop, or visit my mom, so that my mind and energy could be channeled into other things instead of dwelling on what I knew it wouldn't get. I was still working on setting up my own interior decoration business, so I had a lot of free time on my hands. I ran over the number of things I could do to distract myself and decided to go across town to see my mom in Acacia. Perhaps before the visit ended, I'd have the courage to ask her what a woman is supposed to do if the husband is withholding sex from her. I imagined what my mom would say and killed the idea of telling her instantly. By the time I got to Maryland, I was famished. My mother was on a self-imposed dietary plan and hardly had anything sensible other than veggie-related meals at home. I wasn't in the mood for salads and the likes, so I decided to stop somewhere to eat and turned off into Isaac John to a favorite eatery. I saw him as soon as I walked in. He saw me too. For a moment, our eyes locked and then unlocked. That must be the human touch you've been longing for. That part of my mind where sinful thoughts most certainly originated from, whispered. I pushed the thought back and willed myself not to look again. As I walked to queue behind a woman and her son in front of an array of beautifully displayed meals. I felt his eyes on me and couldn't stop myself from stealing a glance. I did more than steal a tiny glance. I looked him in the eye. Again, our eyes held. He smiled. I smiled back. His eyes were teasing, calling out to me, telling me things that my body had been longing for. Hail Mary. I started, stopped, and started again. When I got to pray for us sinners, I replaced us sinners with me, a sinner. My sinful thoughts continued. I looked at the man again and imagined his hands all over me. Stop, I said aloud to myself. Guilt washed all over me. Why was I looking at a man who wasn't my husband and imagining his hands on me? The thought of cheating on my husband had never crossed my mind. In spite of his wickedness to me, never. I looked at the man again. He looked like he was in his early to mid-20s. He was alone and 2 vacant chairs sat in front of him. Too young, I whispered, as if that was supposed to bring me back to my senses and quell the thoughts that flooded my mind. My food in hand, my legs led me directly to his table. You want me to, he said matter-of-factly as I sat down. For a moment, I was taken aback. Was I so transparent? How do you know that? I asked, almost in a whisper, looking around to be sure no one heard him. No one seemed to be paying attention to us, so I looked back at him. What does it matter? He asked. What matters is that the feeling is mutual and we can give each other what we both want. He looks so cocky. I hated him just a little. I opened my mouth to say something. I'm not sure what I would have said. Perhaps I was going to tell him how right he was, or that he was imagining things. But as he placed a finger on my bare arm, whatever it was I wanted to say disappeared, and all I could do was gape at him like an idiot. What do you think I want? I managed in a moment. In response, he placed a finger on my arm and traced the word. Sex. He locked eyes with me again and mouthed, I am very good. This was Satan placing a steaming bowl of what I've been longing for all morning. No, all month in front of me and daring me to walk away from it, knowing I didn't have the strength to do so. I willed myself to look away from him and look down. My eyes fell right on his fingers. Long, slim, beautiful fingers. And in that instant, I wanted nothing more in the whole world than to have those fingers roam my body and do things to me I wasn't even hungry anymore. I didn't want food. I wanted this stranger, this boy man. As if he read my mind, he got up and walked to the door, then turned and looked at me, silently commanding me to follow. My heart was pounding. I felt three things at the same time: excitement, guilt, and fear. Excitement that I was going to get what I'd been longing for so long. Guilt that I was about to cheat on my husband and defile our marital bed. And fear of being caught. I didn't allow any of that to stop me. I felt myself get to my feet, like my legs had developed a mind of their own. When I got outside, he was waiting for me. That cocky smile well in place. Apparently, he didn't come with the car. I walked toward my car. He followed and got in the passenger seat as soon as the door opened. "Your place or mine?" he asked. Boy man hadn't taken his eyes off me since we got into the car. I wondered what he was thinking, what he thought of me. "Do you want to take those off?" he asked me. Do I want to take what off? Those shackles. I didn't quite understand what he meant. "You've lost me," I said to him. "Your rings, of course. Don't you just feel like you're in bondage?" "I love my husband, okay?" "You do?" he asked, with that annoying, cocky smile of his.